Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video I'm going to talk about how to stop overthinking. So overthinking is unproductive thoughts that you continuously have and you just can't escape from them, and you just feel like your world is about to end and you feel this constant immense pressure to keep up with your life, and you just constantly overthink about your life. An example could be, if you don't pass this test, what would happen to you? Or am I being a bad parent? Or am I being someone who's not a good person? It's just constant unproductive thoughts that will make you feel like you're worthless. So, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to stop doing that. But before that, I want to know exactly why women tend to overthink. We are known for being overthinkers, and one of the reasons is because we have this nature of being very nurturing. Human energy has been defined as by being caring, loving, protective, and that leads us to the idea that if we're not doing those things, then we are bad people. And that's the reason why I wanted to talk more about this subject, because it seems like we are constantly comparing ourselves with a family member who's also a mom who has better opportunities, or we sometimes compare ourselves with another family member whose careers are going smoothly, and we think that our life is just as hard, or our life is not as productive as we would like it for it to be. So thinking is so important, but a lot of good thing can lead it to a bad thing. And if you are someone who constantly thinks about the future, then that can be very harmful for you, because you're not in your present state. And when you do a lot of thinking, you're not thinking in a positive way. You're thinking in a very unproductive way. The best way for you to be happy is through the source of gratitude. But when you're thinking or overthinking, then you become sad with your life, and we don't want that. So that's what I'm going to talk more about. So like I was saying, women tend to overthink. And why is that? Well, we think a lot about our kids, we think a lot about our partners, we think a lot about our families, we think a lot about our careers, whether or not our bosses like us. And we just constantly have this immense pressure from family members who think that we're perfect, who think we've done everything correctly. And the truth is that even if you've been a good person or been the best in your family, that can also trigger you, and that will make you not want to disappoint them. And disappointment in family members is indeed something that you can't control, something that you can't really pinpoint, because it's part of life. People who have constantly been a good person, people who've done everything that they could to be the pride and joy of the parents, they tend to be overthinkers. Being a good person can sometimes lead to that. And the book Women Who Think Too Much by Susan Nolan talks about how women tend to get married, and then once they get married, they gain weight, then they start thinking, oh, my partner's gonna find someone younger and prettier. Or they start thinking, well, what is my boss going to think of me if I do this? Or why was my boss being this way? We constantly overthink, and let me tell you, you can't really stop this unless you do self-work. And how do you do that? Well, taking time out of the day for yourself. And it can be very hard, especially if you're a mom, especially if you're someone who takes care of a family member who's sick. It can feel as if you just don't have the time to do that for yourself. A good way for you to do this is by practicing really good habits. And it could be simple as sleeping your 8 hours, or also eating your vegetables, your fruits. Exercising is very important, but I'm not talking about going to the gym specifically. I'm talking about whether or not you are active. Have you danced lately? Have you practiced yoga? Have you gone around your block and start walking? Those are very important ways for you to eliminate that thinking, because you become more grateful of the things that you have. When you spend time with yourself, it really leads you to feeling better and healthier. So another thing is, please avoid alcohol. Studies have shown that it's bad for your skin, bad for your mental health. Alcohol disrupts the balance of your neurotransmitters, and that is very, very important, because after you consume alcohol, you might think, oh, I feel confident, I feel better about myself, I feel like I run the world. And the truth is that that's not true. Stop thinking that you are the main character in people's lives, because you're not. You're the main character of your own life and your own story, and you perhaps can play a supporting role in someone else's life. But when you start thinking that you really can't control other people's activity, that's when you start realizing that you just can't control everyone. You don't have the power to do that. You can't control your kids sometimes whether or not they're going to behave in a positive way. You just pray that they will, but it's very, very hard, and we put so much pressure upon ourselves. But we think that we are people who constantly can control people's lives, and that is not true. So you take the pressure off, and you think, well, I really can't control what this person's gonna say about my appearance, or I can't control whether or not my kids are gonna turn out good people. I can't control whether or not my husband will do this to me. You start to realize that life is beautiful, and you start to realize that life is just so much fuller, because you don't have expectations from anyone. You really don't. So stop putting too much pressure on yourself, because the truth is that life is not as hard as we think it is. There's external things that we just can't predict. We never predicted a COVID-19 pandemic. We can't predict whether or not you're gonna have a disease. You can't predict whether or not you're gonna have a car accident. You just can't do that. And eliminating those stress, acknowledging that things like this can happen at any time, it's very, very crucial, knowing that it's not your fault. It is not your fault how things can turn out. You can only decide whether or not you're going to be a good person, because you are living inside of that person. But if you just care so much about what other people will think, well, you can't control that either. So with that being said, I want you to stop overthinking. Those thoughts are so unproductive, and they won't lead you to anything. But if you just understand that life goes beyond yourself, then you'll be fine. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.